In this video, I will be showing you how to make this plant string art piece from beginning to end. To make this string art piece, I recommend using a 3/4 inch thick plywood piece. I cut mine to an 8 by 12 inch size. You'll also need a hammer and some nails. I have linked the nails very similar to mine in the description below. You will also need some sort of template. I offer one on my website or my Etsy just like this. It is a download it and print. And for all my templates, I make sure to let you guys know which orientation to print it out. The first thing we will do is secure our template to our board. I just use some simple painter's tape. You can use whatever you would like. If using my template, I have these little circles showing exactly where you're going to hammer your nails. With these printable templates, I recommend doing guide holes where you're just going to hit the nail one time on each of those circles just to make a little hole. If you would like, you could hammer straight through the paper and rip it off later. You just might get little pieces under each nail that you'll want to pick out. But for this tutorial, I'm going to do a guide hole on each of the circles on my template. Once you have made a hole on every single circle, make sure to double check every single one. We'll go ahead and remove the paper. You should be able to see each of those holes all throughout your board. And now you're ready to actually hammer the nails in. The way that I like to hammer my nails is to hold it between my thumb and my middle finger. You'll just place it right inside that hole. I like to hit it 2 to 3 times and then take my hand off and hit it in a few more. You should still have quite a bit of that nail above the board. I hammer in maybe halfway. And then you will just repeat the process for all of the rest of those nails. As you're hammering them in, not all of your nails are probably going to end up being straight. You can see this one, it's tilted down a little bit. All you have to do is hit the nail from the side to straighten it out. This method works if your nail is leaning too far in any sort of direction. Just hit them to make them nice and straight. And then just go through and hammer all of those nails in. On this particular design, there are a couple nails that you want to watch out for. Right here and this one as well, they are sharing a lot of different leaves, so a lot of layers are going to go on them, so you don't want to hammer them in as far. They stand up a little bit taller than the others. This is just going to help you out when it comes to the stringing because, like I said, it's going to have a lot more layers than the others. Other than those two, you can hammer all the nails the exact same. Please keep in mind my nails might be a little straighter as I have hammered a ton of nails in my day. You can just spend the time to kind of hit some that might be standing up a little taller that shouldn't be, or hitting the sides to just help straighten them out. Now it's time to string. You're going to grab whatever colors you would like to use. I use this variegated green on a lot of my plant signs. I will link the yarn down below in the description, and I'm also going to use 2 different colors for my bowl. Going back to that template, you're going to see that I numbered the areas in the order that we're going to string them. So we're going to start with this upper leaf right here. All right, so taking that green yarn that you're going to use, I like to do a loop up in the air. This will start our knot. We're going to tuck this loop on that very top nail of this first leaf, and you're going to push that knot all the way down to the base of that nail and pull it tight. And then just tuck that little strand into the leaf. We'll cover that up. For each section, I like to outline it first so I can see exactly where we're stringing. You can use your template for reference to see how many nails deep that is down that line and count them out and then back up. Just like when we tie that knot, you're going to make sure you're pushing this outline all the way down to the base of the nails. For each leaf, I will be showing you 5 different layers that you're going to be stringing. The very first one I like to do is just the width of the leaf, starting at the top. We're going side to side, working our way down. And then once you get all the way to the bottom, we will be doing a diagonal layer. As you can see, pushing that yarn down. It'll be diagonal going one direction, and then the third layer we will be going the diagonal the other direction, so it kind of crisscrosses in between those. Doing these first 3 layers is really just covering up as much of the board as possible and kind of help filling up the height of the nail and setting us up to do the layers of the length of the leaf. So these top 2 layers are going to be the length of the leaf. In my head, I just draw an imaginary line from that very top nail to that bottom inner nail. That's the direction that you should go. So starting over here on the corner, we're going to go to the one above it and then down to the one below it and back and forth, filling it in just like those other layers. It's just important to pay attention to the direction of these last 2 layers. So that first layer is done. I like to go back through and do this same type of layer again, just to make it a little thicker to get any gaps that we might have missed. I just slightly shift this one a little bit to try and hit those gaps. It is still the same direction, we're just not completely copying that layer that we did previously. All 5 layers are done. This leaf looks wonderful. Really make sure that you push those layers down on the inner parts where more yarn will go on later. But to finish this leaf, I like to do an outline on the parts that will not have more yarn, so it'll just be this upper half. And we'll keep those on the top of our layers and just go around like this, and it is finished. Now it's time to move on to the second leaf. You can find that on the template. So we're just going to go right over to it, as this other leaf that we're cutting through will be covered later. It is much faster just to do a little sneak through this middle leaf than to cut and tie off every time. I do this method a lot through all of my string art. So we're doing the exact same steps that we did on the first one. We are going to outline this leaf that we're working on, and then we're going to get ourselves to that top point. Our first layer is the width of the leaf, and then it will be diagonal in one direction and then back the other direction. And then the 2 layers that are the length of the leaf. So you're going over to the corner of the leaf, one above, one below, and so on all the way to the other side. You can see up to this layer I do have a lot of gaps, so we're doing it again where it's just slightly shifted so it's not copying that layer before, but still the same direction. And you can see that we'll fill in this gap a little bit better. One thing you can do if your second layer doesn't hit all of those gaps is just go through and have little tiny strands here and there where you just kind of pinpoint where that gap is to fill it in. Just make sure you're kind of going in the same direction. This is great if you don't want to be adding a bunch more layers to try and help hit it. And then to finish this leaf, we will do that outline for the top half. And number 2 is finished. Now we will move on to number 3, which is right next to it on the right. We'll start off with the outline. This one is a little bit different because one side the nails are empty while the other side there is yarn. So you're just gonna go right over top of those layers. But on the right side of this leaf, you do want to still push that yarn down to the base of the nails. So your yarn is going to be a little sideways, a little tilted. It's all good. One thing to know, when you're stringing with yarn, you probably are going to run into some knots. Just try and work them out. Okay, so from here on out, it's the same process over and over. Just outline your leaf, do your 5 layers, and then outline the top half, and keep moving on. If you do plan to string before finishing the rest of the tutorial, you're going to stop at the 10th leaf and then you're going to string up the bowl and then the other 2 leaves. This just really helps with how the layers look and making sure that the bowl appears like it's behind some of those leaves. So on this leaf, it is using a couple of those nails that we made sure we didn't hammer in as far. So just watch how many layers you are actually tying onto those. After this leaf, we are going to stop and go down to the bowl. So we're going to cut our yarn, tie it off. I just do that same loop as before, tuck it onto a nail. You'll just use your scissors to trim this strand. So for the bowl, I am going to do a little bit of an ombre effect using 2 different colors. I'm going to grab the lighter color and we're going to tie the yarn down on one of the nails at the base. You're going to outline it just like your leaves. Really push down the upper nail because it is going to get full. You can probably tell it's already getting full. And then after your outline, you'll just go and start filling this in. Because I'm going to try and do an ombre effect, my very last layer is going to be horizontal. So my layers before that need to go in all the other directions. We're doing the diagonals and the verticals, and then slowly working our way to a horizontal layer. Just like with the leaves, we are going to outline the bowl. You'll outline the entire thing, cut and tie off that strand. I'm grabbing my second color. To give an ombre effect, you'll just start at the very base. You'll go back and forth and you can see it's just slowly getting a little bit wider as those nails get farther apart. And it's just as easy as that. You'll tie it off and tuck that strand in and we have a simple ombre bowl. Okay, so now we are on the home stretch, last 2 leaves. The only thing different with these is when you are finished with each leaf, you're going to outline the whole entire leaf as there's no overlapping yarn on top. And just like that, we now have a gorgeous string art plant design. If you enjoyed making this, be sure to check out the other templates that I offer. I will have the places that you can buy them linked below. Thank you so much for watching.